What's going on, football world? It's Carter with X's and O's, and on this video I am going to be discussing the pre-snap numbering of offensive receivers. I am going to first start out by building an offensive formation. And let's put our guard in there and our tackle. I'm going to put my quarterback on this formation in gun. All receivers on this video will be designated in X's and O's green. So we have X, Y, X, Y, Z off the line. Let's put our tailback next to the quarterback and our fullback next to the quarterback. I'm also going to, on every formation, divide the formation from left to right down the offensive center with X's and O's yellow. And so you can see we have a division line there. I want to discuss the rule. When we number offensive receivers before the snap, we want to number, I'm going to write the rule in X's and O's blue, number the receivers outside in, meaning we are going to go from the sideline and start counting in towards the center on either side, outside in, on either side until we reach the yellow division line. Let's start counting receivers. I always like to share information. I know people name and number things a little differently, but in my system I would call this formation pro gun. It's a pro style offense and the quarterback is in shotgun. Many coaches would see this formation and tell their players to think pre-snap read that it's going to be a passing play. Well, in most cases that's true. Down and distance always determines that, but also if the quarterback is a runner, this is a very good play for gun style zone read option type football. So you'll have to make that determination, but it is a more historically a heavy passing style formation. If we count from left to right, X will be number 1, moving from outside in, like our rule says. The tailback would be number 2. We have now reached the division line, so we have to move to the other side. Outside in, Z receiver or flanker would be number 1. The Y or the tight end would be number 2. And the fullback would be number 3. As I'm sure you're well aware of, there should always be 5 eligible receivers in 11-man football. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dividing the field or the formation down the center. There are pre-snap aligned 3 receivers to the right, 2 receivers to the left. Let's move into our next diagram or our next formation. I'm going to keep my quarterback in gun and start putting receivers on the field. X, I'm going to bring my Z over. I'm going to say my tailback either motioned out or aligned out in the slot. And I'm going to move my fullback over to the quarterback's right side, and I'm going to split my Y receiver out on the line on the right side for on the defensive perspective. I would call this formation trips gun, trips meaning 3, gun, and the tight end is split, so I always refer to a split tight end as open. Trips gun open. Let's go ahead and bring our dividing line down the center again, like so, and start counting wide receivers pre-snap. From left to right, X would be number 1, Z would be number 2, The tailback would be number 3. The fullback would be number 4. We have reached the division line. Now we have to flip-flop sides. Going from outside in, and there's only one receiver remaining, the Y would be number 1. The final diagram, and actually the most difficult to count pre-snap, are the more run-style offensive formations. I am going to draw a basic I formation, and I'm going to tell you why it is a little more complicated to determine pre-snap numbering of receivers when the offense aligns in a traditional I formation. That is our I formation, and I'll just put I over here, and I'll put form, I formation for short. I formation. Let's bring our dividing line again down the center. You may have already picked up why this might be the more difficult formation to count receivers pre-snap. But let's go ahead and start using our rule. Number receivers from outside in. Let's go left to right. The X is number 1. Let's keep moving more towards the center. We have already reached the yellow division line. At this point, we have to stop numbering wide receivers or receivers. So let's move to the other side. The Z would be number 1. The Y, or the tight end, would be number 2. We cannot count any more receivers pre-snap because we do not know whether the fullback and the tailback are going to go left or right. Let's make that determination. Let's say at the snap of the ball, the fullback comes over here, chips on the defensive end, and then leaks out into the flat. And then let's say that the tailback maybe executes a fake of some kind and then check downs right in the middle of the field. After the ball has been snapped, now we can count these receivers, and defensive players would have to do this on the fly. But the tailback would now be number 3, and the fullback would now be number 2. So now we have 2 wide receivers on the left and 3 receivers on the right, but we would not be able to determine the numbering of the running backs until after the snap. Why is the pre-snap numbering of receivers important or beneficial? As always, I'm big on communication. The more players can have a simple form of communication, the more clarification they will have, and the more solid your defense is going to be, because there will be less confusion. And so communication is huge. Specifically when you are talking about job responsibilities in man-to-man coverage or zone coverage. I'll give you a brief example. In cover 2, you might tell the cornerback on either side, you are to jam number 1, funnel him to the inside, and then settle down after you've reached a depth of 7 yards. Something like that, whatever your rule is. Or you might tell Mike, you are to key number 3 in a cover 2. You are to key number 3, and if number 3 shows up in your zone, you're going to carry number 3 inside leverage through the hook and then settle down once you get to a depth of 14 yards. Very, very explicit communication. There's a numbering system. Your players will be less confused. This video has been discussing the pre-snap numbering of offensive receivers. As always, I hope it has expanded your knowledge of the game, and whether you are a player, a coach, or a fan, you will find more value and enjoyment out of the game of football based upon this knowledge. If there are any video topics you'd like to see in the future, please leave me a comment at the bottom of this video. Please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and I appreciate your time, and we'll see you on the next video.